Hi, my name's Danny Gormally and I'm a Grandmaster, and basically I'm doing my first DVD today, which is how to improve your chess practical results or your practical chess result. And this DVD is basically aimed at a club player. So it's to really illustrate some various tricks and techniques that can help you to improve your practical chess results. Okay, the next subject I want to look at is basically, we're going to talk about psychology and the element of psychology, and also we're going to talk about nerves, and we'll talk about how to sort of best control your nerves, because my next game I'm going to demonstrate is a game against Michael Adams. Michael Adams, of course, is a very, very strong Grandmaster. He's been British #1 for about 20 years now. He's obviously had a very strong battle with Nigel Short for the British #1 spot. But generally, Adams has been slightly ahead of Short, and he's played some of the very best players in the world. He's played Kasparov, he's played Anand, he's played Kramnik, he's played them all basically, and he's got very good score against many of those players. And but Adams is a very sort of tough player. He's a very tough player to play because his style is quite sort of deceptive. He doesn't look like he's doing much, but he's always doing something. Now, really, in this game, I wanted to sort of demonstrate to you the importance of keeping your nerve, because Adams keeps his nerve and I don't. And the other thing that I want to talk about is when I first saw this pairing, I think I was mentally defeated. As soon as I saw that I was playing Adams, I realised I was lost. You know, I looked at the pairing and thought, oh no, I'm playing Adams. Oh God, you know, this is terrible. I'm going to lose. You know, really, I should have been thinking, you know, I've got a good chance. I mean, okay, I'm playing Adams, but you know, I mean, I'm a good player. I can sort of play. Hopefully, I can play a good game. I was speaking to a Scottish player, Jonathan Rowson, very, very strong player, very intelligent guy, and he's very, very good at psychology. Really understands psychology very well. And he was saying that the first thing you do when you look at the pairing for the first time, your first feelings are so important, because as soon as you look at that pairing and you think, I don't want that pairing, then really your thoughts all go in one downward direction. Whereas if you look at that pair and you think, great, love to play that game, it suddenly just gives you that psychological lift. And so really, in a way, I was psychologically destroyed. So as soon as I sat down and played Adams, Adams, as I say, is a very calm guy, and you know, he's got a sort of very sort of serene presence at the board. I'm sure he does get nervous, but during this game there's no sign of nerves at all. Sort of sits down the board, and I apologise in advance for this very bad impersonation of Adams, but he sort of sits down at the board, and he's sort of like very calm. He's like very calm like this, and he's sort of moving around in his chair, and he's a bit like this, you know. And he's got a very calm way and a very consistent way of behaving at the board. And he doesn't, he just seems so incredibly calm, and that calmness transmits to you. And it basically, you know, you can feel it. So in this game, as I say, Adams is a master psychologist, and he really got the hang of the opening in this game, because he basically knew which opening to play against me, and which opening would work well. Because he went e4, I played c5, and bear in mind at this game, at the start, I was so nervous, I was trembling, so I played c5, and my hand was shaking, and I was like, oh no, you know, and it was quite embarrassing. And he played knight f3, I played d6, he played d4, I took, knight takes, knight f6, knight c3, and I played a Najdorf. And the problem is, I played a Najdorf, but because I'm so lazy, I don't know the theory as well as I used to. You know, I used to know the theory quite well, but I don't study the Najdorf as much as I should, so I don't really know the latest lines. And I remember before the game, I prepared something against bishop e2, because my friend Simon Williams showed me a variation which I quite liked. So I sort of was prepared for bishop e2 and bishop e3. But Adams played a move which he didn't normally play. He played bishop to c4, which is the Sozin variation. Again, is a favourite of Bobby Fischer's. Bobby Fischer popularised the Sozin. And Nigel Short played the Sozin against Garry Kasparov in his World Championship match with mixed success, but in generally good results. But Bishop C4 is not a move that Adams normally plays, but he obviously understood very well by preparing for me how I wasn't really well prepared for this variation. So again, part of psychology is knowing where your opponent feels uncomfortable. So he went Bishop C4, I played E6. He played Bishop B3. I played B5, which is a normal plan. Castles. Bishop to E7, and now Queen F3. This is all very, very standard stuff. And now the normal move is Queen C7. Queen to C7. This is the most standard idea. I actually had a game against as white against the Israeli player Emil Sutovsky, very strong Israeli player, incredibly strong tactician, and he played the most amazing game against me to beat me in Gibraltar, and the most amazing combination, one of the most incredible combinations you'll ever see. And it was quite interesting because New interested in an interview with Anand, short interview at the back of one of their editions, and they said to Anand, one of the questions was, what's the best game you've ever seen? And he said Gormally Sutovsky was a lot of fun, and I was quite proud that I was part of a game that Anand thought was the best game he'd ever seen. So it was sort of my one claim to fame. And but he played a fantastic game as black to defeat me, a brilliant combination. And it was also worth pointing out that if you want to improve, you've got to play against better players. Like I say, when I played Adams, I'm playing against a better player. I've got to learn from experience. When I played that tournament in Gibraltar, the Sutovsky game was the only game I lost. I played against some of the very strongest players in the world. I played against Nakamura, I played against Aronian, Sargsyan, Sasha Kiran. I played against Draev, beat Draev. And it just sort of improved my chess tremendous amount, playing those players round after round. And this is one of the things that you really must do if you want to improve, is to play people get better than you. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck in a rut of playing the same people over and over again, beating the same people. You're not going to learn anything. You've got to play people who are better than you. But anyway, going back to the game, I didn't play Queen C7 because I thought, well, he's going to have prepared that. So I didn't play what I normally play. So already he's won the psychological battle because he's forcing me to play something that I don't feel comfortable with. I played Queen to B6. And he played the move Bishop to E3. So Queen to B7. This is a standard line, and black has reasonable results with this line. And, I remember in particular a game Kasparov played against Schultz in the World Championship match. After they finished the World Championship match, they had a rapid play match, and Kasparov played this variation against Schultz, and he won a very nice game against Schultz. So Queen B7, you're basically putting pressure on E4 and threatening B4. So white has to do something about that. He plays Queen to G3, B4, Knight A4. And the point is, you can't really take the pawn on E4 because the pawn on G7 is hanging. So at the moment, you've got to do something about that. I'll go at Knight BD7. But now if he takes on G7, I may be able to go Rook G8, Queen H6, and then take on E4. And I've got a good position. So he doesn't really want to allow Rook G8. So he defends his pawn. He went F3. I castled. And now he played the move pawn to A3. Which at first sight I thought, well, I don't know this move at all. Again, it's a good demonstration of he understood my weak point. He understood where my weak point was. I took the pawn on A3. He recaptured. And now we analysed the game afterwards in the pub, and we're all sitting there, me, Simon Williams, Mark Ebden, we're all sipping this gorgeous Belgian beer, you know, sun's sort of shining, beautiful. Suddenly it doesn't feel so bad that you've lost the game. And Simon Williams said to me after the game, he said, why didn't you play D5 in this position? Why didn't you play D5? Now, if you played me, he said, and I played a3, and I took on a3 and rook takes, you'd play d5. You'd think Simon's a patzer. He goes, Gormally, if you play me, you realise I've blundered, you go d5 immediately. You know, sorry, it doesn't sound like Simon, but anyway, the point is, he's right in a way, because I didn't play my normal game when I'm playing Adams because I'm too nervous. You know, if I was playing someone normally, the move I would play is I would play d5, because the most natural move, d5, you attack the rook with the bishop and you hit e4. But the point is that Adams had actually had it all worked out, and when I analysed it later, after you take on d5, knight takes d5, bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, white goes rook d3. And at first sight, it looks like black's doing very well because you've got you've got two bishops. But the problem is in this position, there's sort of tactical problems. Sometimes the knight can sort of jump away and discover the rook onto the queen, not straight away, but in some variations. The queen's not particularly comfortable on d5. He can hit it with knight c3. So at first sight, it looks as if black's doing really well, but actually I think the white is better in this position. So I didn't play d5, and instead so put the bishop back. Instead of d5, I played the move knight to c5. So I'm immediately sort of trying to put some pressure on b3, possibly take on a4. And Adams fought for a while. It was first real thinking during the game. And he played the move knight to e2. And it's a very typical Adams move because he kind of, it doesn't look like it does anything at first sight. It looks like a point, what's the point of knight e2? But it's kind of a positional, again, it was he really got this incredible positional feel. That he understands what the best move is in any position. And he's kind of putting pressure on c5. So it's kind of like the knight goes away to sort of give extra sort of impetus to the bishop. So again, I've got a sort of problem here. What do I do with this knight? Do I leave it on c5? Do I let him take on c5? And if I let him take, then I'm going to have this weak pawn on c5. I don't really want to allow that. So I've got to. So I took on a4, and he took out the bishop, which at first sight surprised me because I thought, well, I'm taking on b2. But again, I probably fought for about 2 minutes here. I was too nervous. I wasn't calm enough. I didn't really I couldn't feel the moment, you know. So taking on b2, I didn't bother to calculate it because I thought, well, Adams wouldn't give me this pawn on b2 unless he'd worked out a forced win. So basically, again, I wasn't playing my natural game because I just trusted him. I just thought, with Adams, he's not gonna, you know, he's not gonna sort of blunder his pawn on b2. So I didn't even bother to calculate it. But the point is, after b2, we looked at the game afterwards, and after taking on b2, let's get to the position. Yeah, rook b3. You take on c2. Knight to d4. Queen back to c7. Rook c1. This is what Adam showed me during the game, after the game. He said, you play these moves. And I didn't see any of this. And queen a5. And then he fought for a while, and I thought, well, he must have worked out a forced win. And maybe that's the difference between someone like Adams and someone like Carlsen or Kasparov. Carlsen and Kasparov are real calculating machines, and they work everything out. They probably work out this whole position to mate. Whereas Adams is more sort of, he plays on feel. He's got tremendous feel, so it kind of, you know, he doesn't sort of calculate as well as those guys, but his feel is just as good, you know. And I think he sort of felt that White was doing well there. And the point is, after bishop c6, rook a7, White has a very strong move here. So I just get to the position. Yeah, rook to b1. Which looks crazy at first sight. But the point is that he's given this square for the knight. So now this knight b3 is a very, very strong threat. And I think the black's in quite a lot of trouble. It's also worth pointing out, if we go back to this position, I also suggested him after the game, I said, knight c6. You know, why not knight c6 for black? And he just sort of waved it away. And it's interesting that because I was chatting to Peter Wells, and Peter Wells is he's worked with Mickey Adams on a number of occasions. Peter Wells is a very talented player, and he's sort of Adams has employed him as his second. And he said that the thing about Adams is the difference is obviously there's a difference. Is he'll just dismiss variations out of hand that you'll look at because he'll just have this feel. So he just cuts down much better. You know, he cuts through the chaff much quicker than an average GM, you know? So, I mean, he's at, well, knight c6, I thought, you know, it looks quite interesting, but takes, knight e7, king h8, rook c3, bishop b7. And actually, black's okay. If he takes on d6, I'll go rook d8. And you know, black's fine. But the point is, Adams understood this straight away, whereas it took me a while to understand this. And but the point is that I've already made a psychological error in that I've not actually calculated taking on b2. I've just dismissed that out of hand, and I'm kind of already psychologically under pressure because I'm not playing my natural game. I'm sort of playing to Adams's tune, you know, in a way. So, sorry, we'll just get back to this position. So, yeah, he's taking back the bishop. I went bishop d7. So Adams played the move rook to b3, gaining time on the queen. This is one of the problems in this position. I played queen c8. He took on d7. I can recapture the knight. In fact, that's what Adams recommended after the game. But I think the move I played was fine. Queen takes d7. I mean, I haven't made a critical mistake yet. I don't think. You know, the position is fine for black, really. But the thing is, I'm playing Adams, and I'm sort of thinking, well, I'm probably just losing because I've got this weak pawn on a6. And what he's done is he stopped my play. He stopped me playing d5. If I go d5, he's going to go e5. And he's going to go rook a1, and eventually he's going to go rook a3, just take my pawn, and then just win the game. But the point is, the position is quite dynamic. It's difficult for him to carry out that plan without, you know, allowing me some counterplay. He played bishop to h6. I went knight back to e8, and he went rook to d1. I went rook to c8. It's interesting actually at this moment that I did actually calculate the variation rook b8, and if he takes, I go queen a7 check. And I think this is perfectly fine for black. But the point is that this point becomes relevant later on, as you'll see. And he went rook d2. Sorry, I went rook c8. He went rook d2. I went king to h8. So I've got a very passive looking position. But the point is that black's position has a lot of potential. You know, he's got a lot of stored potential. Always in these Sicilian positions, you've got these pawns on e6 and d6 that kind of create a sort of barricade, a barrier for black. You know, it's very difficult for white to break down black's position. So, by the way, out of interest, Adams here suggested the move pawn to a5. And the point is that I didn't even really consider this move, and it really surprised me after the game in the post-mortem that Adams would suggest a move like pawn a5, because I thought, well, if you're playing somebody who's 2700, I thought you don't have time to play moves like a5. You know, you've always got to be doing something. It's almost like this existentialist feel of that you're kind of feel you're under pressure to do more than you would do normally. Like I say, you don't play your normal game. When you're playing maybe weaker players than you, or the same strength, you're quite happy to play slow moves. But when you're playing someone like Adams, you feel like you always have to do something, you know? And it's just incredible when I analyse with Adams, it's just this feel he has for the right moves. It's just this magical feel. It's just so impressive in the analysis. It's just any problem that there was in the position, he just immediately solved it. It just quickly get rid of the problem and just move on. And it impressed me enormously. And I said to people after the game, I said, well, Adams, I think he's going to win the tournament because he's so much stronger than everyone else. And he did actually win after playoff. So A5 was a very good option. And the point about A5 is the idea is to play A4. And if the rook was to move, and suddenly this pawn becomes a target. I mean, I might be able to make a move like Queen B5, and if he goes B3, then maybe A3. So this pawn, the point is that I feel like I have to do something quickly, but he's not really got any threats. He's not really threatening to do anything. So pawn A5 was perfectly playable. I played King H8. And now he played Bishop G5. And now I played the move Knight F6 was a mistake. I should play anything other than Knight F6. He goes E5, which I'd calculated earlier, and I thought, oh, this is not a problem for me. This is fine. I mean, it looks like he's crushing me through the centre. Nah, there's no problem. There's no problem for black here. I wasn't even slightly concerned. I went Queen A7. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, Adams is going to play. To be honest, I was sitting there and I thought Adams is going to play King F1. I'm going to take on E5. He's going to realise that he can't take back because of he's going to play something like this. I take. He's going to realise he can't take back because of Rook C5. I play the move Rook C5, and if he plays, for example, Queen F4, then Knight H5 wins, because of the double attack on G5 and F4. And I actually started feeling sorry for him at this point, because I thought, he's going to play King F1, and then I'm going to take, and then he's going to offer a draw, because he's going to suddenly realise that he's a pawn down for nothing. And I started feeling sorry for him, because I thought a few years ago he was playing sort of in the World Championship. He's playing the World Championship match, and then suddenly he's losing to me in a leisure centre in Sheffield. And I thought he's probably going to go King F1 and then offer a draw, and then I'll sort of just rebuff him. I'll just sorry, Mickey. I don't want to draw. Sorry, mate. Sorry. I feel a bit sorry for him at this point. And then suddenly, instead of King F1, his hand reaches for his bishop on G5, and I said, oh dear. And he goes Bishop E3, and I just went completely red, because you're on the demonstration board, and everyone's looking at the game, and they're all thinking, who is this idiot Gormally? Who is this patzer? He's just lost a piece for nothing. So I resigned, because I'm losing a piece, and I didn't see Bishop E3 at all. And the point is that the rook, when I calculated this variation earlier with Rook B8 and then Queen A7. Obviously, you can't play Bishop E3 because the rook's on B8. So it's kind of like this visual thing where I've got this visual memory. I'm trying to find an excuse for such a pathetic blunder. But the point is, I wasn't calm during this game. I was nervous. And Adams was just sort of like this epitome of just calmness and serenity. And it was very sort of interesting. And after the game, as I say, he gave me a post-mortem. It was very kind of him to give me a post-mortem, because I feel I learned a lot from that post-mortem. And just you sort of look at these players at the 2700 and what have you, and these very strong players like Adams, and you think, well, they're very good, but you don't realise how good they are until you have a post-mortem with them. So what I would recommend is, whenever you play a good player, a player better than you, always try and get a post-mortem, because you learn so much more. I feel so much more from the post-mortem than I did from the actual game, because the game itself wasn't that interesting. It was just some silly blunder at the end by Black. But I thought it was a good example of how important it is to keep your nerve, you know, and not adjust your play according to the opponent. You know, you've got to basically play your natural game. Yes, you have to adjust your play a little bit, you know, but you've got to sort of keep your nerve. And as I say, Adam is a master psychologist. His opening choice was perfect. You know, he quickly got a strong position, and really it was a very simple game for him. But I thought that was a good demonstration.